Well, today, Illinois lawmakers held another hearing looking at prescription drug benefit managers and the role they play in our healthcare system.
That's right. Illinois Capitol Bureau Chief Max Cotton has more on what lawmakers heard.
According to a Federal Trade Commission report released in July, the 6 largest pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, manage nearly 95% of all prescriptions in the U.S. They're essentially the middlemen in the prescription drug business. Examples include Express Scripts, CVS Caremark, and Optum Rx. They negotiate between insurance companies, drug manufacturers, and pharmacies. Wednesday, the Illinois House Healthcare Availability and Accessibility Committee focused on PBMs, and specifically how they affect the specialty drug market. Ann Gillespie, the state's acting director of the Department of Insurance, told lawmakers the FTC report shows they are classifying more drugs as specialty.
By classifying a larger number of drugs as specialty, PBMs may be steering more prescriptions away from independent pharmacies to their own specialty pharmacies to dispense.
She says each PBM is using different criteria, bringing more business to their specialty pharmacies. The report showed 45% of specialty drugs were unique to a single PBM, meaning others didn't classify them as specialty. It's why, she says, the Department of Insurance is considering implementing a standard definition of specialty drug.
The concentration of market power in a few players, combined with continued lack of transparency, practices to obfuscate, conceal, and misdirect, ultimately harm the system and the people with the least amount of power, but the most at stake.
The Pharmaceutical Care Management Association, a national organization representing PBMs, disputes the report. Speaking at a similar hearing in July, Connor Rose with the PCMA told lawmakers,
much of those allegations are based on speculations presented without empirical evidence, simply put. The report relies heavily on anecdotes, outside commentary, and public comments.
In Springfield, Max Cotton, WGEM News.